Hey, what's going on, y'all? It is hard mode selected here with the homie Phil Special Meter and myself, just underscore Drado.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to say first and foremost, we know Skip isn't here with us again for this pod. He is still with hard mode selected, guys. Don't worry. This is just a topic that we're gonna talk about that Phil and I were huge fans of. So today we're gonna be diving deep into the live adaptation of Full Metal Alchemist.
Yes.
The first film, just the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just give our overall thoughts, a little review. We're gonna do some non-spoiler review first, and then we'll jump into some more spoiler stuff. But to begin with, first and foremost, how are you doing today, Phil?
Hey, no, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for bringing that back into the into the pod. Yeah, no, I'm doing all right. Behind the scenes, I overslept, so
Oh,
Jada was the only
oh.
one who was ready for the actual.
And it's
Uh,
usually the opposite. I'm usually the late one, so I was on time today.
Drado gets his gold star today. I was thinking in my head, I was like, because Skip and I both overslept. We're supposed to, if you note, Drado has a Deadpool shirt on. We're supposed to be doing a Deadpool review as well. Not throwing Skip under the bus. I'm under the bus too. But we were supposed to do that. I overslept. Skip overslept. So I'm just like, all right, next time, whenever we get together, we said we were gonna get together and like have like a meal someday. I'll make sure I get Drado something nice.
Hey.
But no, other than that, other than oversleeping and like being a little frustrated about it, I feel like I actually did get a good, I had a good like, after school special life lesson time out of it because I feel like, I've really been working lately a lot on like a lot of self growth and development, which I think is very fitting for this because Ed and Al we're very much on that path too, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and I've really been spending time just like focusing in on, and thanks, shout out to the big bro, shout out to Star Cardinal. He's been helping me a lot too, sending me materials. But spending a lot of time just restructuring, how I go about my life, how I prioritize things. And one of the things I've been working on is just like trying to reduce distractions. Like there's so much that happens in life, and like it's easy to get scattered. But it's important when you want to do specific things with your life, when you have goals, you have dreams, whatever, to lock in. Not the expense of everything, but it's important to find ways to help yourself out. Like when you're here to do something specific, once you've decided that for yourself, then I think it's important to sort of go, all right, what's feeding that and what's taking away from that, and
Mm.
and so that's what I've been kind of looking at. And I feel like last night, yesterday I was getting into like a bunch of different like philosophical quandaries, and I was doing some stuff, messaging back and forth with so and so, and I was like, what, I actually probably could have spent more of that time just like working on the things I wanted to work on for stream and work on the things I want to work on for the pod. And I did end up doing it, but I ended up doing it late. And then I was up until the late hours in the morning, and then here we are. So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, well, yeah, all right. I have a better sense of how to manage those things and how to be more honest with myself. I mean, I knew at the time, like I got done with a lot of the prep for today's stream at like midnight, and I was like,
Mhm.
all right, you can call it here. Like you have to be up at, you have to be ready to go at 9 a.m. Like just call it here. But then I was like, no, let me fuck with OBS a little bit more, and then you know how that turns out.
Yeah.
So it's that discipline. It's that I know Drado shared things about himself and his wife, and how y'all structure things when y'all go to bed, all that good stuff. And like I'm working on that stuff too. I'm trying to be a better teammate and a better not just for y'all, but just just a
Mhm.
better version of me. So
Oh no, absolutely. And no, shout out to you first and foremost for acknowledging that and taking the time to even work on that. A lot of people don't. So the fact that you're, conscious of that and making those decisions to, make some changes or make some adjustments. Nah, I applaud you for sure. I'm actually in the process of doing the same thing. Just
Thanks,
working
man.
on my overall health, making sure I'm getting enough sleep. I find myself getting back into the routine of going to, like, not setting a bedtime per se, but just being more aware of, okay, let me go to bed and at least get this many hours of sleep because it's such and such time.
Yeah.
um for those that do not know, I work Monday through Friday, and then when I get off work, instantly I'm parenting, I'm being a husband, doing all these things around the house, outside, whatever, and I feel like it takes a lot of my day away from me to just relax or just do what I want to do or chill. And I end up staying up late. And I need to prioritize my time better. Um, not, giving in to the fact that, man, I just got off work. Let me at least spend this many hours playing this game or yada yada. I just gotta be more mindful that it is important to get rest and to sleep and to, you know, make sure I'm eating my meals, even if it's not 3 meals a day. At least I'm eating something. Just being more
Mm,
aware of not going through a day of just eating one thing and not drinking water and all those things. Just trying to push myself because I know you deal with because of your health, you deal with your appetite as well, Phil.
yeah,
For
yeah,
me, I've always just been not really a morning eater or a breakfast eater. I've just never
yeah.
been if I am eating breakfast, it's usually for lunch or for dinner. Um I'm just never hungry when I first wake up.
Sure.
That's not something that I um feel when I wake up in the morning. So I give myself maybe like 11ish, maybe noon. That's when I eat my first meal. And I know that's probably not good because I'm up like maybe 7:30 for work, 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's like what, 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours I'm not eating anything. So I just got to work on being more mindful of, even if it's something light, like a little applesauce cup or a piece of toast that I can just heat up. I just gotta, be more self-aware of making sure I'm eating right, getting a lot of rest and whatnot. So I've
Ah,
I've
that's
been
what's
doing the
up.
same thing, just working on those things.
That's what's up,
I'm
though.
it's a work in progress, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better.
Nah, man, that's so important. And like, these are lifelong journeys, right? Like we're constantly
Hmm.
till the day we die, we finding things that like we're like, oh, that could be a bit better. Like, I always like to remind people things can, yes, it's true. Things can always be worse. So obviously appreciation is important, but things can also
Yeah.
always be better. So, it's okay to keep striving for things you know, um, to keep growing. Uh, ironically, there are two things I want to get to. One of them is just a little bit to touch on your recent trip, but like one thing I wanted
Mhm.
to get to is one of the things I was like messaging my brother about yesterday was like, he had sent me some great information about like, about focus and about like, the things that do steal our energy and whatever. And like, I think the topic of like, kind of envy came up, and I thought for sure,
Mm.
I was like, I think that's just like I just don't have a lot of envy in my nature. Like I just think that that's not something I really. I'm not saying I've never experienced it, but like, I think jealousy when I was younger, sure, and then like envy, and the difference being like jealousy is kind of like when you're afraid somebody will take something you already have, like jealous boyfriend, right?
Mhm.
Like I have a girl, I think somebody else making time with her means I have less time with her. It's that fear, right? That
Mhm.
somebody can take something that's yours, and then like envy is that thing where you're like, hey, you have that, but I think I deserve it more. I
Mhm.
want that, that type of thing. And
Exactly.
I was like, man, I'm not thanks to me just like having this weird balance of like of like like a sort of lack of ego here and like a lot of ego here. I usually don't have a lot of
Yeah.
envy because most of the time, I'm not driven by competition. Like
Mhm.
I don't really want to be better than other people. I don't really like, doesn't really feed me. Not
Mhm.
solely at least. And then like the other thing is my ego. Like I want to be me. So like even when I was a kid, like I look almost exactly like my dad. And people be like, you look
Mhm.
exactly like your father. And I'd be like, no, I don't. They're like, who do you look like? I look like myself. So like I have this,
Me.
yeah, exactly. I want to be whatever I see, whatever I aspire to, I want to have the Phil version of that, right? So like even when
Mhm.
I'm streaming, when I see Drado has a great idea, I'm like, okay, what is my version of that? If I admire an athlete or an artist, I'm like, okay, like that's cool. How do I do my take on that? So like that's kind of how my mind usually works. So I was like, I think I've beat envy. And Ray's like, he quoted a pastor. He was this pastor says like we never really fully, stop dealing with envy. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true. And I was messaging him back and forth and like trying to work it
Yeah.
out. And I like after like almost like 30 minutes or an hour after my last text to him, I was like, I found it. I have relationship envy. Like there are plenty of times where I'm just
Mm.
like, I will see so and so together, and I'm just like, like I want that, but like, but
Yeah.
the thing I will pass on just because it's the thing I'm working on, right? Like it's just the reminder that you can't really envy what somebody else has without also envying the cost that
Mm.
it took to get it right. So like a lot of times we look at something, and I thought I was immune to this, but I'm not. But a lot of times we'll look at something and be like, oh yeah, it must be nice, or how do they have that and I don't have that, or whatever. But it's just like also, yeah, that might look great, but also you don't know what it took to get it, and maintain it.
That's true.
So, um, so I thought I'd share a little bit of that, especially since envy is one of the homunculi in Fullmetal Alchemist, one of the seven deadly
Absolutely.
sins as well, of course. And we'll be getting to that. But before we jump right, and Drado went to Japan, y'all. Drado went to Japan finally, and I'm
This
so
is
happy
true.
for her.
This is true. In the beginning I was ecstatic. I'm super happy, but now I'm like, man, I wish I was back. I don't want to be here. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. I came back to the States like, man, America kind of sucks. But
Mm.
no, it was a good time. This was a trip that we had actually, me and the wife, we had planned years ago before pandemic, and it was like right on the cusp of pandemic. Like we had our tickets and everything. This is before they, um canceled flights and everything. It was probably, I want to say, 2020, January 2020, when they pretty much canceled flights to everywhere. So the wife had a trip to London that was planned for 2020, and then I had a trip to Japan because we were doing trips for our birthdays. That was the goal for that year. And then you know, Japan, they weren't letting anyone into their territories at all. They weren't accepting nobody, and if you did, you had to go through this long, lengthy process of being like, if you go there, you have to get vaccinated and you have to stay there for 2 weeks until that uh vaccination, I guess, kicks in or whatever, so that way they can test you again within that 2 weeks. So basically you'd have to stay a month there just to visit Japan during that time. And we ended up getting our money back for the flights and everything, so that was fine. But we had to wait to go back until everything was open, and you know I guess COVID was gone, even though it's not, it's still here. But yeah, we had to wait, and then life happened. We ended up moving out of our apartment into a house,
Oh
ended up having
yeah.
a kid,
Oh
and
yeah.
then yeah, we had to postpone it until this year. We made it a goal for 2024 to finally take these trips, not letting anything stop us unless, God forbid, something else happened, mysteriously floated into the air and shut everything down again. But we were able to go to London for the wife's birthday. She was able to pretty much do everything she wanted to do. We checked out a lot of areas, from Harry Potter sites to Doctor Who, sites, and
Yeah.
even saw some a lot of monumental stuff like in London and just experiencing the culture and the food and everything. So that was really good time. And then
Mm.
this past last week I was able to go to Japan, or we were able to go to Japan. It was a great time. Got to see a lot of different sites, shrines, experienced a lot of culture. Overall, really had a great time. The food was amazing. I ate a lot of stuff I normally wouldn't eat, from squid to octopus to
Yes.
all types of stuff.
Koyaki.
And yes. So yeah, definitely
uh,
say if you plan on going to Japan, do it now, or when you can,
Always.
when you have the
Yes, yes. No,
opportunity.
that part. You know, tomorrow's not promised. Things change. I mean, nobody expected a damn pandemic, right? So like,
Not at all.
um, so you know, a lot of times I just think that's such sage advice. A lot of times we assume things are going to be kind of like the same as they are now, and like that's how we
Hmm.
make our plans sometimes. Like, okay, well, tomorrow's just going to be like, you know, today, just more of the same. But it's like you don't know
Hmm.
that. So if you have a golden opportunity, if it's something that really matters to you, do your best to seize it responsibly.
Yes.
You know, it's important. But no, that's dope. And I want to say right now, we are definitely going to have more of a stream. I think it'd be cool to like maybe collab with maybe Fantasy Cat or something again.
Mm.
But like we should definitely do a stream where we go in depth about Japan, because there's just so much to talk about.
Yeah,
There's
it
so much
is.
to talk about. But now I'm glad you had a great trip, and I see
Thank
your
you,
little.
sir.
As I saw it when we were setting up, I see your buddy back there, the all-time
Yes,
goat
little
of
Squirtle.
Pokemon.
Hey, it's crazy. I always tell Phil, like, we have so many different interests because Squirtle was both of our favorite Pokemon, and then
Mhm.
our birthdays are both the same month, and
Yes.
then we're both into like basically the same stuff. So it's like crazy, but yeah.
Separated from birth. But yes, all that said, obviously, I wanted to dive into a little bit of Japan, because what we're going to be talking about today obviously hails from that fine country. And
Mhm,
you know,
mhm, mhm,
there's so much to go into when you get into Full Metal Alchemist. We're going to be doing the not this particular pod, but we're going to review
mhm.
each of the live action films. You know, we figured this would be a great time, a great way to celebrate the holiday that is October 3rd, official
Mhm.
FMA and Mean Girls Day. So
Absolutely.
we wanted to do something for that. We're both big Full Metal Alchemist fans. Just a brief background. You know, I got introduced to the concept thanks to Cartoon Network, and
Mm.
the 2003 version, which came to us in 2004 in America, was, you know, the version that I first saw and was just like in awe of. I just marveled at. Like I saw the ad for it, and the ad gives you nothing. It was just like a bunch of music playing, like symphonic music playing, and a bunch of quick cuts from the anime, and it just said Full Metal Alchemist, and I was just like, I don't know why I think that's cool, but that just looks fucking cool to
Mhm.
me. And I remember my older brother at the time was just like, I mean, I don't know. I'm here to watch Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, but you know, whatever. Uh, and so like, you know, he sat down and he watched it with me, and like, you know, I think there's just something about the nature of, you know, being very close to my older brother, being the nature of like
Mm.
being a couple of brothers, watching this journey of brothers go through this very difficult, traumatic, emotional journey, and really looking out for each other, and really trying to balance like what we want for ourselves and each other versus what the world needs from us, right? Like, you know, and sometimes you have to give a little bit of what you want up to be a better person and help the world. So I thought it was just like such a powerful thing, and so fell in love with that version. Obviously, years later, in 2009, we got Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is really unprecedented, because it was like, how often do you get like another take on the same you know, manga, but
Mhm.
like with retaining a lot of the same voice cast? They kept almost everybody that they could. I know they had to replace Scar. And I do believe I believe there's a death in the cast as well. I think they had to recast. Might have been Scar, might have been someone else, but I think there are at least two characters they had to recast outright, and the third character, I know. Well, they had to recast a few because Alphonse obviously aged out, which I thought was beautiful about the 2003 version. They actually had Aaron Dismuke, who was actually like like 11 or 12 when he recorded Alphonse. In Brotherhood, you get Maxie Whitehead, which is a grown woman, but she does an admirable job. She sounds very close. And like, it was just something that I just didn't expect to see. And it's like, it was so exciting because it was like, now I have two ways to enjoy this great story. Three, really, because the manga is a little bit different from Brotherhood, even though Brotherhood is closer. But yeah, so like there's someday we'll have more time to get into like the whole, differences between all three of those things, the manga, the 2003 version, and Brotherhood. And I know that my favorite is the 2003 version. I believe Drado's favorite is Brotherhood, but we both rock with both. We both recognize that both are great stories. And yeah, I guess that's where it all started for me. And I started looking up all this history about Awakawa-san, who made who created Fullmetal Alchemist, and her experiences, and how she was like she grew up on a farm, and how that informed her the concept of like equivalent exchange, the idea that like you have to put something in to get something back. So yeah, I just fell down this deep well. It is my favorite anime of all time, and I was a little bit nervous to check out this movie. But Drado and the big bro were adamant that they had a good time with it, and they thought it was worth a look for me. So I'm like, all right. So that's my story. That's my FMA story in a nutshell.
I don't remember what got me into Fullmetal Alchemist. I was on like when I first got into anime, it was really late in my life. I mean, obviously we had like the Dragon Ball Z and the Tsunamis and the Pokemon and all those things, but like diving deep into like anime, I didn't really get into it for real until I'd probably say 2010.
Word.
That was when I discovered Fullmetal Alchemist for the first time. I did watch Brotherhood first. Because I believe that was like they were still kind of dropping episodes when I got into it, I believe. But yeah, I believe 2003 I watched, maybe like a year later, maybe like right after I finished Brotherhood.
Okay,
But
yeah.
And that's only because I didn't even know what 2003 was a thing
That makes
until I was
sense.
told that, and I was like, oh, okay, let me let me check this out then. So and then I did, and it was around the time where I was diving into a bunch of anime though. So I was diving into let me see what was out back then. Bleach and Naruto
Yes,
and
yes.
Gurren Lagann and just a bunch
Ooh.
of different animes. So Full Metal was definitely one that stood out the most for me and was a favorite of mine that I truly enjoyed. I remember binging it, Brotherhood on Netflix, and I mean, it was probably Crunchyroll. It was probably Crunchyroll, but I remember binging it and just being in awe of like just the concept overall, because it was nothing I had ever seen. Being into like seeing like how they brought alchemy into an anime. I don't think I've ever seen that in an anime before, and it was really interesting learning about all of the rules and you know seeing the different characters that they had in that show, and like the relationships that they had with each other, and
Yeah.
having a show that has like these two brothers. It's really rare to get two main character animes like that. Usually you
Yeah.
got the one main character and he has this rival, or you got this one
Right.
character who has a friend who becomes evil, and then now you gotta
Such
turn
a
them
good
back good.
observation.
It's always I don't want to say it's cliche or the same stuff, but it was good to see something different. And
Yes.
I truly enjoyed just diving into the world of Full Metal Alchemist. And then once I did hear they were doing a live adaptation, and it was around the same time they did like the Attack on Titan live adaptation, that I
Yeah.
did see the first one. And then they did a Tokyo Ghoul live adaptation, which I did see. So I had seen a fairly good amount of anime live adaptations until Netflix decided, hey, you know what we haven't done yet?
Mm.
Death Note. Why don't we turn this into a live adaptation? And when they did, it got shitted on so bad. Even before I saw it, I was like, "Oh man, they didn't like this at all." Because I was the type that was
Right.
like, I'm not about to ruin." Death Note is such a great anime. It's like such a phenomenal anime from beginning to end. I couldn't do it, but I've always been the type of person to say, see it for my let me see it for myself so I can form my own opinion. Let me not go off of what
Yes.
what the consensus are. So let me see it. And I did, and I hated it. So when that came out, I heard they was doing another live adaptation for Full Metal Alchemist, and I was like, Netflix again? Okay.
Yeah.
But I like Full Metal Alchemist so much. Let me at least watch the first film because they haven't even announced like sequels or anything yet. Let me at
Right.
least watch this film. I was under the impression that they were gonna do some sequels because there's no possible way they can fit every single thing in this film.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to see it. I wanted to see, are they gonna try and squeeze every single thing that's in this one film? So I did
Yeah.
watch it. I watched it when it first came out back, what was it,
17. Yeah.
2017? Yeah,
Hmm.
2017, long time ago. Um, and that's how I was introduced to it. Yeah.
Shout out to you for
And here we
giving
are
stuff a
today reviewing
try.
it.
Yeah, no, I mean like, and yeah, no, I mean that history of like fucking up anime adaptations, and to be fair, like a lot of times it's it's America fucking up anime
Mhm,
adaptations. Like I
mhm.
find the success rate drops significantly when we are the ones producing and making the film. Like when we have American directors
Yeah,
and American writers and American storytellers and American cast, like a lot of times that's where it falls apart. It's not always because apparently, fucking One Piece fucking rocks.
One Piece killed.
It's not, there's no all of anything, but I'm just saying on average, like
Mhm.
I think a lot of times American sensibilities, um, people think American filmmakers and creators feel like we have to somehow Americanize it so that audiences will embrace it. But then they forget the thing that made people really fall in love was the fact that it was from another culture. And the essence of that culture is part of the storytelling and part of the appeal. So it's like
Mhm.
almost, it's that thing where it's like, we like your stuff, but we don't like you. So we're going to keep you out of it. And that type of shit tends to backfire. So like when you get people who actually do respect it, that's different. And I will note that obviously Full Metal Alchemist 2017 is made by Japanese filmmakers and has a
Yes, it is.
Japanese cast. So that is an important thing to note. But even when I saw, because the only to my memory, I might be missing one or two, but the only really anime adaptations I remember enjoying were like I like City Hunter. I don't remember most of it. That's a wild ass
Still
movie.
gotta watch it.
If you like,
I didn't watch it yet.
I watched the old one with Jackie Chan. I haven't watched the new
Oh,
one
okay.
yet. The new one
Okay.
looks dope as well. The old one looks
Got
like
you.
it's having fun. And I'll watch Jackie Chan in anything. Y'all know that. So
Absolutely.
that was fun. And then like I remember my favorite anime adaptation film, which to be fair, I didn't really watch the original anime it's based off of first, but Casern the Robot Hunter is like it came out in like the
Mm.
early 2000s. It was around the same time as like Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. We were just starting to play with like that whole green screen world creating technology. Um
Mhm.
and yeah, there's just I highly recommend it. And now, to be fair, if you're looking for it online, um, if you want the cut that I saw, it will be the longer cut of the film. Go do a little bit of research. I'm sorry to make you do homework, but like there's a longer cut, and then there's like a condensed one. And I think the longer cut's a little bit harder to find. But either way, if you can
Mm.
experience Casern, I highly recommend it. I think they do a great job with this classic anime character, and then they do a great job of like whipping in some like real world message with it. They make it really relevant, especially around themes of like Japan and World War II kind of
Mm.
contemplation, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So like I think it's really cool, which also brings us back to Full Metal Alchemist because the impetus for Full Metal Alchemist, a lot of it is based on like World War II and
Or
like
yeah.
the atomic bomb, all that stuff. Um,
Mhm.
and like that's where Arakawa-san pulled um, a lot of her stuff. Like if I mean, I'm not gonna go into everything, but like, like a lot of the military characters are named after World War II war machines.
Yep.
So Mustang, Hawkeye,
Mhm.
Breda, Fullman, Fury, like those cats are, all war machines from World War II. So like there's a lot of that symbology throughout each incarnation of Full Metal Alchemist. It's at its core. I think it's really brilliantly
Mhm.
done. And so yeah, when this movie came around, and I did know of it when it came out, I saw a little bit of footage from it, the trailers. And I had no disrespect. I'm like, okay, clearly they're doing their thing with the budget they've got, but I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know if it could translate. It's anime, even when done by Japanese filmmakers. Anime is such a difficult thing to nail tonally when you bring
Yeah.
it to live action, because there's things you do in the anime that in live action may come off as silly or not work or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and then Full Metal is my favorite anime because especially out of the shonen category, it it always did have a really grounded approach, like more so than the
Mm.
average. Like I love Dragon Ball and I love like Pokemon and I love like, Inuyasha and all sorts of stuff. But like something about Full Metal just seemed like it was a little bit more restrained, a little bit more mature in its delivery, a little bit more thoughtful, and it didn't necessarily, even though it does have dope action, it didn't necessarily lean on its epic battles. The epic fights are there, and when it's
Yeah.
time to throw down. But like the interesting thing for me is that when I think about Full Metal Alchemist, especially 2003, what I remember most isn't the fighting. It really is just sort of the emotional arc and just the painful lessons they learn and things like that, and how clever they are, the things they have to come up with to win,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. But so yeah, I just didn't know if any of that was going to come through or if this was just going to feel like cosplay. So I guess that brings us into
Mhm.
actually watching this movie. Welcome to the spoiler-free section of this review. Um, Overall thoughts. You want me to start? You want to start, Drado?
I'll go first. Spoiler free thoughts. I would say when I first was watching it and like the I'll say the first half of it, it was I was intrigued. I was actually entertained. It was really dope to see this, character that I've only seen as animated into live action. I really liked the look of the Elric brothers. I really liked how they made um even though the costumes it's one of those things where I've seen a lot of really dope cosplays nowadays where
Mm-hmm.
people are not just going to the store and just purchasing it from like Amazon or Cosplay City or whatever. They're actually taking the time to like build and create their own costumes by hand, or they're stitching and doing this or sewing or finding these machineries and blah blah blah. So I've seen really really dope cosplays
Absolutely.
at like New York Comic Con or San Diego Comic, like all these different places. So I honestly didn't have any issues with how Edward's look was. It was Edward. That's what I saw. It wasn't like
Yeah.
I didn't feel like they were trying to like make him look cheap or make it look, like it was really like cosplay-ish, because I did see some people talking about that. I didn't mind it. It didn't bother me. And then Alphonse, I really loved how they made him look. He had like this really uh nice the CGI for it. And I guess it depends on what you watch this show on will kind of
Mm-hmm.
affect how this stuff will look. They have the option of Netflix to get standard or HD
Yeah, that's true.
in your subscription. So if you're watching something in standard, it's gonna come off as standard. It's not gonna be as high def as the HD option. So I'm assuming if those out there with the higher option Netflix subscription with the HD stuff, it may pop a little more. And for me, it did pop more for me watching it in HD for Alphonse's look. And I will say it started off entertaining for me in the beginning. I wasn't trying to compare it to the anime because I know with live adaptations they take a different um direction sometimes. So I went into it with open mind. I was open,
Mhm.
kept an open mind about it, and I was entertained. I love the look of like the sets, the different areas they were in. I'm not sure if they filmed the entire thing green screen or not, but it looked like a lot of different areas they did film somewhere, and maybe they did a green screen there. But
Mm.
it was really dope to see like some of the areas. And like you said, Phil, earlier, it's always hard to turn an anime replicate what animes do in adaptations, because you have like this vast world, this fictional
Yeah.
country that you have to pretty much build and
Yeah.
create. And I've seen people fail in previous works, and I've seen people kind of do their own thing, and it looks good and it works. And I feel like they did well for what they chose to do,
Agreed.
for what they did for this movie. Obviously, they took a different route with the plot, but we'll get into that in the spoiler section of this. But I was entertained in the first half of the film. I love the characters, and then I guess depending on if you watch this dubbed or subbed, um
Mm.
that will also play into like if you enjoy how they sound in English versus Japanese.
Yeah.
I am on the I'm the type of person that, and I hate to be that person that does subbed over dubbed or dubbed over subbed, but I tend to watch anime stuff in subbed. I don't mind reading. I don't mind, I have subtitles even with English stuff on because I'm old and my eyes are terrible. So for me, I'm always putting subtitles on regardless. So I did watch this subbed.
Mhm.
Um, I did hear that the English voice actors for this film was not great. I did not
Oh
experience
goodness.
it, so I don't know how they sounded. But I even watched the previous animes in subbed as well. So for me, I felt like the actors that portrayed these characters, I felt like they did a good job. I felt like they they I could tell that they chose I'm not sure of the actor's name, but whoever played Edward, I could tell
Ryosuke
that
something.
I could definitely tell that he did do what he had to do to make sure that the character was portrayed as real or as authentic as he possibly could. Again, it's always hard to take a animated character or a cartoon character and kind of adapt that to an audience who is used to seeing like animes where they're expressing themselves very wildly, or like
Yeah.
you can't make a certain facial expression when you're excited, or or certain you know exaggerated response to like a question or a reaction. So it's
Right.
like you have to ground it as much as you can, but still make it as believable without straying too far away from the actual essence or the tone of the character. So I do think that the actor did good with what he could do.
Yes.
And
Ryosuke Yamada. Shout out to
thank
him
you.
and
Thank you.
Real.
Thank you. Shout out to him for sure. So yeah, the first half I enjoyed, or at least I was entertained, but the second half is when they started to lose me.
Mm.
I was it was the pacing for me. I felt like they were fine in some parts, but then they would slow it down to the point where it felt like it was dragging along, or it felt like they was trying to I could tell they was trying to save stuff for other potential projects or sequels,
Mm.
and it started to feel like they were making stuff up as they went along personally. But
Oh.
I understand you have to not give too much when there's so much content in the story. You don't want to involve too much, so you kind of stray off into it. It almost reminded me of how Final Fantasy VII remake, they did all that they could do with that game, making sure they didn't give us anything outside of Midgar. So they
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah. Yeah.
created all these different side quests, all these different Different characters, new characters,
Yeah.
giving more additional stuff for side character. Like it was just so much
Yeah.
they added to make sure they did not give us any more than what was in Midgar.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
feel like Full Metal Alchemist live adaptation kind of did that as well. They wanted to maintain it here in this story with this particular character, with these particular events going on, and not stray too far. Because in the anime, you could probably knock out a good chunk of it in one film, but they'd have to introduce certain characters a little sooner. So I think they were trying to just hold off on those newer characters until a later film or whatever the case may have been. I don't know
Interesting.
for
Yeah.
sure, but it did get a little slow for me towards the second half. And even though I wasn't a fan of the ending, I will say I did go into it with an open mind, and I did enjoy what they offered. It wasn't a perfect film at all, but it still had good moments, and I feel like I did love the relationship between. Like I felt like they were really brothers. I did feel like that they had good
Mm,
chemistry with each other, and that was the most important thing for me. Was were they going to have that? And they did. That was the one thing that I really wanted, and they did have that. Um, Anything else that they decide to change or make a different choice for, I can adapt sometimes, but that was the most important thing for me was the Elric brothers. Are they going to have that same brotherly connection that I remember them to have,
of
that
course.
drawed me to their stories in the animes. And I have not read the manga. Maybe one day I will,
Yeah.
but I will say, as far as like as far as the anime goes, it, even though it wasn't exactly an exact replica, it was still entertaining for me to see what they did with what they were able to do for this anime. So yeah, that's my spoiler free without giving too much away.
That's right. That's what's up. So it sounds like you would still like recommend I mean, you recommended it to me, obviously. So
I
you would recommend to
I
watch?
would I would recommend it to someone who is a casual fan of Full Metal Alchemist. I would probably not recommend it to those that are hardcore manga anime, like really into the world of Full Metal, only because I know how those reviews turn out, and I would hate
Mhm.
for those reviews to discourage all of what they created and not be able to continue um with later sequels or anything like that, or get bashed by the community because of what what happened. I know how hardcore fans can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
um I would recommend this to a casual fan who enjoys Full Metal Alchemist, or to someone who isn't familiar with Full Metal Alchemist
Right.
and
Right.
can kind of get a taste of what it is even about. I feel like One Piece did a great job with doing that as well, kind of introducing you into the world, even though it didn't do exactly as the anime in One Piece. From what I've heard, I haven't seen it, but from what I've heard, they kind of some parts of it was the same, but they kind of went a different direction story wise. But it was still uh a good way for people to step their dip their toe into the world of One Piece. And I feel like Full Metal Alchemist did the same thing, whereas like I wasn't familiar with One Piece at all. When I did watch the live adaptation, it kind of made me intrigued and interested. It didn't make me want to go back and watch the anime because there's too many episodes, but it did make me want to tune in for a second season of One Piece live adaptation. And Full Metal Alchemist, I feel like watching that, it does it for me. It did leave me wanting to watch the next films, not knowing
Yeah.
if they were even going to do that back when it first came out.
Sure.
But once I did find out that, oh, they got another one coming out, oh, they got two more coming out, I was like, I do want to see those, because there are characters in those movies that I want to see how that character is portrayed. So yeah,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
would definitely recommend this for sure, for sure. Yes.
Nah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah. No, I think that's really astute. Like, I too would recommend this for, yeah, if you like Drado said, if you're casual, and you're not too hung up on the details, or if you have no idea what FMA is and you're not, if you have no idea what FMA is and you're not necessarily keen to watch an entire anime series for whatever reason. Some people just don't like cartoons that much. Some people just are a little bit like, I don't know if anime is my thing, but I'll watch a movie. Like if you're that person, absolutely. I mean, if you're curious about FMA and you're open to anime, watch the anime, read the manga, do whatever you can to get the, that stuff. But like if you, but yeah, if you just kind of want to know, like, what's kind of the concept of FMA, this is a good one. And then also, if you're like Drado or myself, and you are a big fan, but you have an open mind, Drado and I are both artists, so like we understand that like adapting stuff means it has to change to survive in the new medium that it's in, right? So, one of the deterrents for me initially was, this is a movie. I forget the exact runtime, but I'm like, at best it's probably like 2 hours, like whatever. Probably not even that. But like whatever the runtime of this film is, you could not condense Fullmetal Alchemist, any version that I know of, into this runtime. So I was just like, the fuck are you gonna do?
And it's a 2 hour movie. It's about 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Okay, word. So I was just, that's why I was being a diehard fan. I was like, hard pass. Also, I don't know if they're totally going to get it right. I had no hate for it. I'm like, I get making it. It's a popular entity. I like when my favorite comic book characters are adapted into live action here in America. It should be no different for, manga characters. So I'm like, I get why this movie was made, and I think it's a beautiful story, and I think it'll reach more people because not everybody watches anime. But some people will give a movie a chance. And so I was like, cool, but probably not for me. But now that I've watched it, and the thing about pacing I thought was really an interesting note, because I'm like, I felt there were definitely some things, like as far as like what they included in the story, that I'm like, you instead of deviating, you probably could have spent a little bit more time on the stuff you decided you were going to do. Like, to go back to that FF7 remake comparison, it's like, yeah, they did add some fat on purpose, but like they used it as an opportunity in that game for world building. Like, I think, if you're comparing remake to the original FF7, like Midgar is such a short part of that game, because they cover a lot of ground in that game. And I think while the cynical view of the remake is, well, they're just stretching this out so they can milk us for, 3 entries, which may have some truth to it. I do think the beautiful thing they did was they got to zoom in on some characters and some relationships and some aspects of the world that allowed you to feel even more immersed. And like, you got to learn things about characters that you're like, this character got such little screen time in the original game. Like, so like if you're going to do this thing where you, kind of bubble yourself off to a certain section of the overall narrative, then like make the most of that. And I guess one of my problems was that I felt like it's similar to Avatar, actually both live action adaptations of Avatar, even though one is absolute garbage, and the other one's actually really good. I think both live action adaptations of Avatar, for those who don't know, The Last Airbender was adapted to a movie that almost nobody liked back in I don't know 2012. I forget when that movie came out. And then by Shyamalan, and then recently they made a Netflix series, but they only gave them fucking 8 episodes, which I blame Netflix for that shit. That is their fault. Yes. We'll get deep into that some other pod, but like that is fucked up. So my issue is when you have to condense an epic odyssey like FMA or Avatar: The Last Airbender. And you have to condense it just to make the use of the medium that it's in. You don't get enough time with some of the characters and moments for the moments to hit the way you would like them to hit, the way they're initially intended to hit. So there's some things that happen in this movie. There are things that cover in this movie that I'm like, they did it well for what they could do within this runtime, but also it just kind of goes by so fast. And I'm like, oh, that happens to that character. That is unfortunate. Anyways, we're on to this next thing. And so, it doesn't, it it's hard when you've seen the anime. But what I will say, or read the manga, but what I will say is this: overall, I thought it was a Herculean effort to make something of substance and quality, and I respect that. I think they did a great job. The special effects are clean for the budget they're on. Obviously, this is not Hollywood, y'all. Not everybody has that kind of like cash to be thrown at a movie, and Hollywood throws too much money at some movies sometimes. Yeah, you look at certain movies from America, you're like, they spent how much on this? Why? But like, you know, they did their thing within. It's sort of what I always say about kind of like Final Fantasy games, even as they age out. You know, even going back to OG Final Fantasy VII with its polygon blocky characters, when they hit those cinematics, it still looks good today. Even though it's not competitive with today, it looks good because they made a strong stylistic choice. And I think FMA 2017 live action film does a similar thing where they're like, they're constrained by a certain budget, but the aesthetic choices they make have a style to it. And I can appreciate it. And I can appreciate how much they're drawing from the source material and how much they decide to like elevate that into like live action. I thought that was beautiful. So special effects are clean for that budget. Action was on point when they threw down. They threw down.
They was scrapping.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, we end it now. The music just feels right. If you've watched either of the anime series or both, especially, you know, music is such a key component in the storytelling, not just the soundtrack with like lyrics and stuff by popular rock and pop artists, but and R&B artists, but like the actual music in, you know, that's scored for the story. So I thought both the scored music and the inspired by, you know, theme song type music, fucking heavenly. Just like really felt like Fullmetal Alchemist without just aping the previous anime adaptations. They didn't just rip it from there, but they did something that feels familiar to that, and it made me feel at home. And I thought that was really cool. It kind of reminded me of like the 20th Century Fox X-Men film, the very first one. They have like a scored theme that feels a little bit like but it's not like quite that. It's just like the movie's version of that. And I thought like, that's cool. So yeah, they did their thing with the music. There were I watched it subbed as well, and I want to do a quick thing and say like sub, dub, however you want to watch something, you know, that is up to you, and nobody is superior for watching it one way or the other. Like, people need to calm down on that, especially when it comes to anime or anything animated, because like it's always dubbed, y'all. They're cartoons. Like, somebody has to speak for them. So with FMA in particular, I have seen a bit of it, the anime subbed. I just wanted to get a sense of it, and I think they do their thing. I think they do a great job. I argue that for my money, FMA is one of the few, and maybe the only example I can think of where I honestly think the English dub is just a little bit stronger. And the only reason I say that, and there's no disrespect to the original people who threw it down in Japan, but the only reason I say that is because I think that there's something about, first of all, the voice acting in the English cast is actually really amazing. But also, I think there's something about the nature of like where Awakawa-san, where she drew inspiration for a lot of the characters. A lot of the characters do have a intentionally European twinge to them, like Edward Alphonse Elric. Like, they don't just kind of look white. A lot of anime characters arguably look kind of white or whatever, but they're actually Japanese. But I think in Fullmetal Alchemist, it's one of the few cases where they're like, no, we're actually, Amistris is supposed to be the Western world a little bit. We're supposed to be representing, you know, Germany, US, UK, you know, like all of that stuff. And so like the way Winry and Edward and Al and a number of characters look and the way they operate does feel very Western. And so I thought the Western voices kind of fit in that way. And the only other advantage I'm going to point out is that what I said earlier, there's something about Aaron Dismuke. I'm a big Alphonse fan. I feel like personality wise, I always felt a little closer to him. I am a younger brother. And so there's something about the vulnerability of like 11 to 12-year-old boy, like having to do the things that Al has to do in that show, like dramatically. It just reads it just hits different. No disrespect to any of the female voice actors in Japan or America who have voiced Al. They all did their thing, but I was just like, there's something about just actually getting a kid to play a kid role well that just hits different. So it's one of the few times I will actually like stand up and say like, I actually think the English casts I prefer, but they're both good. But like with live action, I just can't do it anymore. When I was a kid, I didn't have any choice. Whatever they put on cable, like, you know, you're watching a Bruce Lee movie with like this guy that sounds like this. And you're like, I don't know if that's how any of those cats sound. And so I find live action dubbing distracting. I'm not going to judge you if that's how you watch it, but like, because these are live actors and like, I have a sense of like, you know, what their specific mouth shapes are doing, and I have a sense of what they probably do and don't sound like. It's just harder for me to buy in. It throws me off. So I've like, once I found out how to like get subtitled versions of like Asian or foreign films, I haven't really looked back. So that's the way I watched this as well. I thought the cast did an amazing job. I think that they're all fucking phenomenal in their roles. I thought it was really, really cool to see their choices for the, like, I just thought the main cast really shines. Like, I love what they did with Hughes, Mustang, Hawkeye, Shao Tucker, General Hakuro Nina, Dr. Marco, and the homunculi. I thought they all fucking were just fucking phenomenal. And as for Edward himself, I think the actor Ryosuke, I think he carries the film really well. And like Drado says, he does this really grounded version of the character. Though with that, I will note, I did feel like that portrayal of Edward, and I'm not putting it on the actor, I think it's like also writing and direction, but that portrayal of Edward did lose a little bit of his trademark knee-jerk fury and like excitability. So like, again, I get, because that can come off kind of silly if you do too much with it, but I felt like this Edward just wasn't as pissed as I'm used to seeing Edward be about like certain things that are done and certain disrespect that happens and certain like, you know, playing with people's lives and things like that. He did still have those moments, and they played it really dramatic, and it was really cool. You know, definitely we'll get into the beats later, but like, you know, there's some stuff between him and like Shao Tucker that I'm like, yeah, they did that. But yeah, I just felt like they tamed Edward just a little bit, so he felt different as a character. I think Alphonse is great. I think they did. Again, I'm still like adjusting to like he sounds older than I'm used to him sounding. But it's fair. I mean, he's supposed to be like 14 or whatever, but like he sounded a bit older. So there was some of the innocence I associate with Alphonse's voice wasn't quite in there. So it wasn't as heartbreaking when certain things happened, but I still think the person, whoever plays Alphonse, like, yeah, they get Alphonse. They know what they're doing. So shout out to them as well. But speaking of subbed and dubbed, here's the thing I've noticed lately when I'm watching sub things, and this is why you can't be superior just because you watch an anime subbed. in this film, oftentimes Alphonse will refer to Edward by saying Nissan, and in the sub they say Edward. But if you know a little Japanese, you know Nissan does not mean Edward. Nissan means older brother, which if you remember the anime and the manga, he's always saying brother. No, brother, don't do this. Like he you know, it's like part of the Japanese honorifics in which you kind of pay a little bit more respect to people who came before you. So like saying, you know, if you're the younger brother, you would say older brother as opposed to maybe their first name sometimes. And so like just seeing that translation was like, I get it, because when you subtitle something, you have to do things really quickly as far as like conveying everything that they're communicating. And you have to make shorthand that makes sense for the audience that it's intended for. And so I think what their thought process was, well, he's talking to Ed, so we'll just say Ed because we want the audience to be able to follow along. But I'm also like, if somebody is starting to pick up Japanese this way, they're going to learn the wrong thing.
That's kind of confusing. Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
So that was like my one little nitpick. Shout out to the younger brother, Connor, and the older brother, Star Cardinal, for like, you know, I got to go on a little bit of a Japanese journey with them. I took like 1 semester in college. I'm not gonna front like I'm some expert, but that I could pick up. I was like,
Nice.
um, moving along though, I do think the costumes are dope. I love them. I thought they did a great job. The only thing that probably bugged me was Edward's wig. I think it's just a hard thing to do. I was like, that's the only element that really did feel like cosplay to me. I thought the suit was fucking clean. I want that jacket.
The jacket is nice.
Fucking
With
sick.
the white gloves, yeah, that's nice.
The auto mail was shining. Alphonse has all this elaborate detail. You can literally see the individual scratches and like, you know, imperfections in the armor. I'm like, okay, they cared. But the wig, I was just like, I'm just gonna have to let that go. It didn't look, it's not the worst wig I've ever seen in like a live action thing, but it was very obviously a wig, right? And I was just like, all right, I mean, I think that's part of what comes with like, you know, it's a Japanese cast. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be. Like, it's from Japan, it's made by Japanese people. Like, I'm happy with the way they cast it. I do think that it does change like a little bit of the like, I don't know, it does take my mind a little bit to like kind of settle into that, because I'm just like, all right, I know why everyone's Japanese. This makes perfect sense. And like, shout out to them, because you know, we'd probably fuck it up over here anyways. But like, it was just like, I think trying to get him, he has to be blonde. It's just iconic. But like, yeah, I think they had to try and find a way around it. And I think that's exactly why they didn't fucking do the same with Winry, because I was looking at Winry, I was like, well, why isn't she blonde?
You're not blonde.
But maybe they were just like, we have enough wigs and dye in here. We're good. But yeah, that threw me a little bit.
It would have been interesting to see if they chose to not dye Edward's hair like how they did Winry's, and just kind of kept whoever actors, whatever his natural hair was. I mean, obviously you could, I don't know if because I guess you gotta think about, do you want to find someone who has the exact hair as Edward, or do you want to find someone who can portray this character the best in terms of whoever actor, you know, auditioned for the role.
Exactly.
I feel like I've seen hair like the anime Edwards before on people in real life, but maybe it was one of those situations where they had to make a choice ultimately. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if that came down to budget either. Like, it seems like
that too,
to me that looks like obviously a wig, but like, it seems like hair extensions are also a thing we use. Like, obviously, like, you know, Chris Hemsworth does not have long flowing hair like Thor. He, you know, but they give him extensions, you know, and I think they the same with Hiddleston for a bit as Loki. Like, so like, there are ways to do it. Like, I didn't even know growing up that like Jay and Silent Bob were wearing like hair extensions. I just thought like their hair is just that long. So I don't know what it came down to, but they made their choice. And like, at the end of the day, the important thing is that he feels like Edward. And like, if he didn't have the long braided, you know, blonde hair, I think that would have been like to the detriment of the film. So I'll take this over not having it, but I was like, But no, like Drado said, the locations and sets were perfect. Like, the moment we open up on Risen Bull, I'm like, that's Risen Bull. I've been here. Like, you know, that train at the beginning, like, it was so beautiful. And like, you know, the offices at Central, and like a lot of these familiar places from the anime look like they came straight to life. They fucking killed it. And yeah, I guess overall, like I like I said, I just think I would give this a passing grade. Like, I felt like I expected deviations, and there's some characters missing that I love, but I'm like, okay, I understand, like, within the context of doing one film, there's only so much time that we have to adapt this, and if you introduce too much, you start stretching the audience's goodwill a little thin. So I was like, okay, fair enough. Like, if they're going to condense this leg of the journey, they did a good job. And I really do think that when I finished watching it on Netflix, they give the option like thumbs down, thumbs up, like it, double thumbs up, love it. I was like, I liked it. I liked it.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't say like it was like my favorite thing ever or whatever, but I did
Right.
note that if this movie had come out when I was like 13 or so, right?
Mhm.
Um, this would have been my favorite movie. Like
Oh,
even
absolutely.
having never seen like Full Metal Alchemist anything, this would have been
Mhm.
my favorite. This would have been my shit. I would have like stayed up late on cable trying to like find where I can watch this again and again. Like this is it has
Agreed.
the heart, it has the characters, the relationships are good. I love the relationship between even Ed and Roy in this story. Um, and I think that
Mhm.
like it has a very strong through line with some mishaps. And now that we're here, we can kind of get into what those are. Um,
Yeah, I wanted to I had found something I wanted to read before we jump into it from the director, Fumihiko Sori. He said, I wanted to create a style that follows the original manga as much as possible. The cast is entirely Japanese, but the cultural background is Europe. However, it's a style that doesn't represent a specific race or country. So, regarding the faithfulness of the adaptation, which has characters of non Japanese ethnicity, the director said there will never be a scene in which a character says something that would identify him or her as Japanese.
that's so dope.
Yeah.
Thank you for finding that. That touches
Yeah.
me. Because I like I said, Full Metal is one of the few that I think like there's a lot of like people. There's a lot like they made Goku white in the American bad
Yes, they did.
horrible movie. And I actually like that actor, so it was the same. It's real quick. That actor actually did after the recent passing of the creator of Dragon Ball, he did say
Mhm.
like, "I'm sorry about that movie, y'all." Like, like, and that's really nice of him because he's just
Mhm.
an actor. He's trying to eat. Like, it's not his fault,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know. But shout out to him. But like, I just wanted to say like, we do it all the time. Like, fans are
Mhm.
quick to say like, "Oh well, this character should be white. You're race bending it," or "Oh well, blah blah blah." And I'm like, guys, y'all watch a lot of anime and a lot of your favorite
Yeah.
characters who you think look white are Japanese.
Are not white.
Yeah. Like we live in a world where Motoko Kusanagi was played by fucking Black Widow, right? Like, like nothing against
Yeah.
ScarJo.
Yeah.
I think ScarJo is a emotional fit for the major. I think like she can play that archetype, but she's
Mhm.
not fucking Japanese and it was wrong. So we do
Mhm.
it all the time. So whenever Japan does it, because they're a homogenized country and like they got to make it for their audience first because they're Japanese speaking primarily. They do learn a lot of English, but like
Mhm.
all those things. It's from them. It's from their culture. I will never judge them for making the entire cast Japanese, even if that's not how the story is in the books or whatever. Because I
Mhm.
always think that like the spirit of it is right, and we do way worse over here when we whitewash a lot of
Yes, we do.
things. So I will
Yes, we do.
never I was never going to come for the movie on that basis, but I know some people will, so I'm glad he
Yes.
released that statement. and
Yes.
um
Yes.
and I think it's a really beautiful statement. The only other thing I wanted to add is that like that's actually how a lot of anime characters are designed. There's something I forget the
Mm.
exact term for it. Star Cardinal Ray, my older brother, told me once, but there's a term for it in anime, which basically means without race or without ethnicity or whatever. So like that's how a lot of characters are designed in anime. So when we think like, oh, that's a very European hair color or eye color or style or whatever, it's like, yeah, the
Yeah.
character's still Japanese, but they're just to make it visually interesting, they incorporate elements of different cultures on purpose and kind of
Mhm.
make it formless in a way so that anyone can kind of plug in. And I think that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. So the fact that this director took it there, shout out to them. That's what's up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Now to get into the spoilers,
yes.
I want to start off by saying the film starts off really, really great. Like the two boys that they casted as the Elric brothers, I thought they were adorable. I liked seeing them. They were, they cut their finger, they put the little blood on there trying to bring their mom back. I was like, okay, yeah, I like this. It started off really well for me. I was that's what reeled me in. I was like, okay, how are they gonna start this film off? Are they gonna start it off this way? Are they gonna do a different route? Are they gonna do how Brotherhood started theirs off? What they gonna do?
Mhm.
So I was happy to see that as like the introduction of the film for sure.
It was cool. Like it's fun to note that like both anime adaptations decided to give us a more modern day version of them and then flash back,
Yeah.
which was really
Yeah.
effective. I thought that was a really great way to go, but it was a really strong start to this movie to bring us right to Resin Bull, right to Trisha Elric and the Elric Bros, and like I thought it
Yeah.
was really beautifully done. The only thing I will say, and I will never pick on a child actor, is child Ed and Al is a tall order, perhaps too tall for most
The
child
height.
actors.
Got you.
So like that was the only thing where I was just like, look,
I didn't even peep that. I didn't even pay attention to the height.
I'm like, because like when you watch, I mean, again, I'm comparing, but like when you watch the anime or you read the books, like they're so like articulate and there's so much emotional depth and there's so much going on with them as at those ages. And they're cheating because they're usually using adult actors to voice them. Like they're just pitching their voices or whatever. So to ask like a live, you know, like, I don't know, 8-year-old or whatever to be this kid who's gonna lose their mom and then like bring her back from the dead and like, you know, lose their, you know, like that's a lot to ask. So I gave it a pass. Yeah. You know, it's sort of the same thing with Jake Lloyd in Star Wars. People picked on that boy for no reason. He did what George Lucas directed him to do, and he did fine. Yeah. But I agree with you. The boys are cute, and like you know who they are, and so that's cool. You know, that's good.
Yeah,
that's what we needed.
Absolutely,
that's what we needed.
No, I definitely. Now that you say that, I definitely get it in terms of like choosing. Like I don't know how old those actors were for that scene.
Yeah,
but like you said, if they chose like. They didn't look 8 to me, but if they were like 8-year-old kids or whatever, 9-year-old, whatever, it would be kind of hard to like do what these kids did emotionally, acting wise, because these kids, they looked at least 10 or 11 to me. So no, I definitely get that for sure in terms of like. Yeah.
It's just a lot to ask of a young actor because life is about experience and acting. You draw from your experiences, and you know you haven't had a lot yet. So, or you have your imagination. Some kids just are gifted with that amazing imagination, and they turn out to be a Dakota Fanning or Haley Joel Osment or something, and they can just nail it. But I'm not going to judge these kids. I still think they captured what we needed. But no, that was a great way to open. I agree. I will say for those who are familiar with either the manga or Brotherhood, these films do seem to take more of that approach, which makes sense because 2003 intentionally came up with an original ending. They intentionally had like a different objective as far as like, you know, Arakawa-san and the production team were like, Arakawa-san asked them to do something different. She's like, I know how I'm going to end my manga. I'm not done with my manga yet. There's 3 volumes out. So they're like, hey, she was like, just do something different. I'll feed you information about the characters, the world, the lore. But now I want you guys to create something original. So like, if you're watching this and if you've only watched 2003 or something, just know this is going to be it's different, but it's going to pull more elements from the manga and Brotherhood than it will, you know, what you're used to. But no, they do a great job with it.
Yeah, agreed.
I do think it's cool. I love the way they explained how alchemy works, just like they usually do in like the town of Riol. I had to get used to that. I'm used to saying Lior, and in both animes it's Lior, spelled differently each time, but it's Lior. Here it's Riol. Yeah.
Rio.
Or something.
Okay.
Yeah. And that might just be a Japanese, you know, to English thing. R's and L's tend to get swapped a lot. So,
True.
But no, I thought the priests and everything felt right. I loved just even introducing us to adult Ed, teenage Ed is like the way he's in the action, the way he's so smug and sure, like, oh, I found it, I'm gonna get this shit. You know, not scared of this dude, and like the sequence where he's dodging all those pillars and stuff.
It was like, a good scene. It was really good. Especially when you're like doing a scene like that that's like CGI heavy, it's green screen heavy. It's like the way he was dodging those pillars or just using, you know, his hands to do the alchemy and the moves. You could tell like he was making sure that it looked like he was actually doing those moves. Like it was one move where he did his hands and put them on the ground, and it was like, and it was really dope. It was really dope.
Shout out to the effects team and the direction, because the alchemy in this movie is just beautiful to see. And
Mhm,
yeah, the actors pull it off physically so well, to Drado's
mhm,
point. And like, no, it just looked like it just looked like an interpretation. Some things look like different, but it looked like
mhm,
an honest interpretation of like what goes down in those stories. And like when
mhm.
Alphonse jumps in and starts like, kung fu and shit and throwing shit around, I'm like, that's my boy. There he
The
is.
way Alphonse looked, like, that's why I said they did a great job with I don't know if that was somebody in a costume or if that was CGI
It
because
looks
he
like it
looked
could have been both.
really, really good.
Yeah.
Like, it was one point where he had blocked an attack and his foot scraped against the ground, and
Yeah.
it looked like an actual like heel of his machine, or like his metal outfit.
Armor.
I was like,
Yeah.
that looked fire. That looked
That
fire.
that is absolutely fire. He moves like Alphonse. Like I had certain
Yeah.
expectations going into this, and like just the
Hmm.
physicality of him, the sound design of like when something makes
Yes.
contact with him, the sound design of how his voice reverberates a little bit when he
Through
speaks.
the armor,
Yeah,
yeah.
like they nailed that. They clearly cared, and he has a lot of
Hmm.
expression just like he does in the anime. He has a lot of expression given that
Yes.
he's a suit of armor with like glowing eyes. So
Hmm.
so like shout out to them for that. They started this thing off right. They did the whole Cornello bit, the fake stone,
Yep.
introducing the homunculi. Like I was like, okay, yeah. Got you. Yes, we're doing this. Okay, cool. And I just loved
Hmm.
how they pulled it off. I was
For
gonna
those that do
say,
not know, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
no, no, you got it. You got it.
No,
I
I was
didn't
just
have
gonna
anything.
say for those that do not know, my favorite character in Fullmetal Alchemist is Roy. He's my favorite. So I
Mhm.
really enjoyed this Roy, this live adaptation of
Yes.
Roy. He
Boy
he
held it
was really
down.
really really cool.
He fucking held it down. No, the actors all like show up and do their fucking jobs. Like Roy,
Hmm.
um, this dude understood the assignment. He
Yep.
whatever research he did to prepare for this, he
Hmm.
knew what dude he was playing and he killed it.
Hmm.
Same thing with Hughes and the Hughes
Yes.
resemblance, uncanny. Um,
Yes.
when I say like they just like took him out of the anime, just like made
Yes.
him a flesh and blood. Like that's what Hughes
Hmm.
did. And he had the
Agreed.
right warmth, like and he had the
Hmm.
right like family focus. Again they grounded
Yes.
him a bit more, so he wasn't like all over the place like he's but like he felt like Hughes. He felt like a friend who's
Hmm.
supportive and wants to make sure his friends and allies are stay on the path. Like that's pretty much
Yep.
his job, like to hold everyone together and say like, hey, we're doing something important here. Don't lose your soul trying to do this thing, but do the thing right. And I felt like he had that.
Hmm.
But Roy was
And
don't go for it.
no, I was gonna say, and to reiterate what you talked about earlier during the spoiler free section, Hughes was one of those characters I would have really loved to spend more time with.
Yeah.
I would have loved to spend a lot more time with him. Like I know, in anime he has his demise, and the same thing happens here. But it's one of those things where I would have loved to just spend just more time with him, and
Yeah.
just because, like you said, his look and everything, like even his demeanor, it was straight out the anime, and it was really dope
Yes.
to witness that for sure.
Because with the runtime, they did the best they could with the runtime as far as giving us time with Fuse. But
Yeah.
because of that, and I'll even say, like, even I felt even a little shortchanged when I watched Brotherhood, just because Brotherhood moves at a faster
Mhm.
pace than
It
2003.
really does.
Um, and respect, they have a lot of plot to cover, but like it's just
Mhm.
emotionally, I was just like, oh well, Hughes is already dead. Okay, so like so like in this version, yeah, they did what they could, but what I will say is, I wonder if they're going to do any flashbacks or anything because this actor is too good to like not utilize again. If there's room for him in the story, like I know sometimes in the manga and the anime and stuff, like they would go back to like Roy and Hughes, when they were
Mhm.
younger, and
Mhm.
like right after the Ishval like rebel war, and all that stuff and the rebellion and stuff, and like they'll show us like little tidbits of their relationship forming. They did a little bit of
Yeah.
that in this film, but I am curious to see if there will be more of that or if we're just done with Hughes and we just
Mhm.
have to like honor his memory. But yeah, that was a shame. I do feel like it was interesting the dynamic between Hughes and Roy in this version because they had added a scene where like I mean, basically, Roy had asked him, like Hughes was warning him, you need to watch your back. Like, there's something going down in the military. And then, like, Roy's like, does that mean I have to, like, can't trust you? Do I have to watch my back with you? And he's like, yeah, actually. And, like, I thought that was an interesting and different choice than what we've seen prior. It was like, this Hughes is so, like, methodical that he's like, look, fuck, for all I know, like, I could be used against you. So, yeah, just watch your back at all times, which turns out to be important advice because of envy and what envy can do, right? He didn't know that at the time, but it just works out. So I thought that was really a different, that was something different they added that I think worked, you know?
I agree.
But no, I thought that was
Envy
cool.
look great too.
Yeah.
Envy look
Yeah.
really good. All the homunculi look good, but yeah, Envy.
Envy looked like, they were like, yes, we got the perfect, you know, gender non-conforming look for Envy. Exactly. That I'm like, yeah, this is perfect. Lust was on point. The only drawback to Gluttony is just like visually effects wise, once he opens his gate to consume, I was like, but I think the actor was nice and creepy and, you know, committed to the role. So, like, shout out to that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, other characters that we didn't well, before we move this, I do want to say that, like, the other twist I enjoyed, the plot to frame Roy Mustang specifically. Like, they've done something like that in other versions where, like, they swear he's a traitor and that he's trying to, you know, rebel against the military. But, like, the specific place they put it in this story and the way they did it through Envy, like, I was confused at first. I was like, oh, Envy's gonna look like Roy to shoot Hughes. I'm like, that doesn't hit as hard. But they threw us a fastball, and, like, they went back and showed us the full thing, and Envy ended up using, you know, Hughes's wife after all, but then quickly changed back to Roy so that anyone fleeing the scene would go like, oh no, Roy just shot that man. And I was like, that was pretty dope. I don't hate that. That's pretty cool. That's a change, but I like it. So that was an interesting way to play off of their that dynamic of, can you trust Roy, and just does the military trust Roy, and all that stuff.
I agree. Absolutely.
I wish we had spent more time as well with Nina, moving into, like, some of the heart of the story. Nina, and
it was really quick. It was like, we got that introduction with her, and then next time you see her, she's no longer Nina. Like, damn. It would have made honestly, it probably would have even made that relationship between her and Edward a lot stronger, personally. Because in the anime, they spend a lot of time with each other.
They do.
And they build that relation. That's why he's really upset, and why he feels for her, and why he's upset with the father for doing what he did with Tucker. And no, just being able to spend more time with her, I agree, that probably would have made that hit harder, and probably would have gave that actor that played Edward a lot more emotion to work with.
That was definitely the main one. I thought, like, I think when it comes to Hughes, Nina, and Dr. Marco, we get such little time with each of them, and they're so key in the actual storylines that I'm used to. But I think they made it work for what it was. But, like, it just and obviously, you know, you go in as a fan knowing this moment is coming, but, like, it just didn't hit as hard as it could have. It's still a child being fused with an animal, and just having her life.
That's always gonna be like, I hate that it's like a monumental moment, or like a very sad, memorable moment, but yeah, that's definitely still gonna hit hard. Absolutely.
So, like, you know, again, if you're not familiar at all, like, this probably would have just been fine and worked just as well. But like, shout out to I did give her a shout out earlier, but the actress who plays Nina, with the little screen time she gets, she captures it. Like, again, it's hard to be a child actor and, you know, really nail these things, and, like, they do it. I really did Yeah, that would have been cool. Like it's like you said, since the back half of the plot sort of takes a weird turn, it would have been interesting to
Yeah.
maybe spend more time on stuff like that instead of trying to
Mhm.
come up with something wild to do. But
I think it
I did like her Shao Tucker.
Mhm.
That man's acting his ass off. That dude was fucked up all the way to fucked up. Like
Yeah, they pretty much made him very accurate from how the 2003 adaptation of his character was just crazy
yeah.
and insane. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
he did a
dude.
good job portraying that character.
She did. He just was so pompous and just so sure that like, yeah, this is what it takes to do science. Like this is what we do, Ed. Come on, we the same. And
Mhm.
again, that ass whooping when he calls them the same, like you felt it. And like it was really
Mhm.
cool. One of my favorite, I think I took this note. One of my favorite lines in the movie, one of the favorite dialogue exchanges came down from that scene. And I think it
Mm.
was something to the effect of like, oh, it was from Al because Al stops him as he usually does, stops Ed from
Mhm.
killing this man. And he's like, Mr. Tucker, shut up or I'll be the one to lose control. And I was like, when Al is telling you he will give you the hands instead of Ed, like, you know, you fucked up.
Yep, it's a great line. Great line.
So no, I thought that was really well done. But
Mhm.
in that section, I don't know how you felt, Drado, but like
Mhm.
they played with a lot of things that I felt like felt off. The thing that I couldn't quite buy was
Mhm.
Ed and Winry hop a train to go find Dr. Marco and leave Al alone with a stranger from the military that sure they're getting along with initially and they know he's a researcher and he knows their secret and whatever. But I'm like, the Ed I've known from various versions would never do that. He would never just be
No.
like, and the plan on top of it was he's going to hypnotize Al. Like Ed and Winry were talking about this on the train. They're like, well, he's going to hypnotize Al and maybe find some secrets. I'm like, what? Why are you both so calm about this? Like, you don't know this man, and he works for the military, no less.
Yeah.
I was thrown.
Yeah.
I was thrown.
No, and again, that goes back to just spending more time with Nino on screen. It probably would have done more with that. Because no, I agree. Leaving Al with him, this man that they just met and don't really know at all. It's like, yeah, we're gonna do some experiments on Al. I'm like, really? That's what we're doing. we I thought the whole point was just trying to get, Al's body back, and you're gonna leave him with this stranger who could possibly do anything to him. But nah,
Right.
yeah, I agree. I
It's the
agree.
type of thing that at least anime Ed would have beaten the shit out of somebody for even suggesting like, hell no, I'm not
Yeah,
leaving him here.
yeah,
So it's that was definitely one of the crucial deviations because again, that's less about plot or just like making things different. That's character stuff. And the bond
yeah.
between Ed and
That's
Al
true.
is the central piece of any FMA story. And I feel like that
Hmm.
didn't feel honest to who they
It
were.
was weird. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. On that note, I'm jumping ahead, but since it's
Mhm,
related,
mhm,
the fight scene between Ed and Al. I felt
mm,
while this is something that kind of happens in the previous stories, where
mhm.
they do the tension builds and they're brothers. This happens, like
Yeah, of
Ray
course.
and I have boxed. Connor and I have tussled. Like it's just something that has happened where it's just like you've had enough of this blockhead next to you, but you still love them. It's coming from a place of love.
Mhm,
Um, but what felt different about this fight, they did the whole subplot of like because in this version, Shao Tucker is the one who suggests during his hypnotist segment
yeah.
that maybe you're fake. Maybe Ed just made you up, which in the version I'm familiar with, Barry the Chopper is the one that puts that in Al's head, and that causes
Mm,
this rift to happen. But in this version, Shao
mm,
Tucker does it. It was a good change. Like I was like, okay, that makes sense. But when they got to that point of tension, when they're in that abandoned building and like it's them and Winry and like they're having the
mhm.
argument about like, am I real? And like, you just made me up and I can't trust you. I was like, the way they fought felt too much. It felt like I felt like Ed wouldn't hit Al that way, and Al
he
even
was throwing closed fist punches at him.
right.
He was like he was pulling back on swings all the way back here,
Yeah,
like
like you can
bro.
get all the smoke. And even Al was like just, I mean, the way they staged it
Like,
in 2003 version was like they're on a roof of a hospital and like Ed's recovering and
yeah.
Ed's trying to like hold on to him and be like, Al, don't do this, don't leave, we can talk this out. And Al does the, swing of his arm to just be like, let go of me. And just the reaction in that moment is very much like, you can tell Al's like, I didn't mean to hurt my brother like that, but also still stay the fuck away from me. And in this version,
They
it just feels like
literally
they didn't care.
They didn't. He was just as soon as Edward got on Al and was just wailing on him. Al is like, what did he say? He said, "Don't use your other hand so you don't,
Yeah, you're gonna hurt
ruin
yourself
the
or
other hand."
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. He just kept going like,
Like part of me gets what they were trying to go for as far as like, showing the rawness of it, and like Ed's even bloodying his hand and like trying to prove to his brother, like, I really love you, you fucking knucklehead. Like, I get it, but I just felt like it kind of pulled me out for a minute, because I'm just like, the nature of their closeness.
It didn't. I agree with you. It didn't feel authentic to their relationship. And then I think Winry socked Al with a wrench or something.
Right. Which she does
like,
in the cartoon. She does in the cartoon. But it's just because they amped this up so much, it just felt like
it was. Yeah,
it changed the cadence of it. It just
did.
Yeah,
it did.
Shout out to whoever the actress who plays Winry, because she has to do a lot of extreme emotional stuff, but she does it well, I think. Yeah. So shout out to her.
Shout out to her for sure. The amount of time they spent on that scene alone, they definitely could have shortened that or made it more like how they did in the anime, and could have used that time to put into another, like the Nina situation, like with her character, gave more time, more screen time with that, or just put that somewhere else, that screen time in the film somewhere else, to give more of something else. I agree with you though, Phil. That scene was a lot.
Okay, I had to make sure I wasn't alone. When I watched this with my roommate, who I had shown 2003 to, and we're gonna watch Brotherhood sometime soon. She felt the same. She was just like, "What is happening right now?" I was like, "Okay, I'm not alone." But yeah, that would have been. Yeah, I think less would have been more if that scene in time could have been, like you said, allocated elsewhere. I thought that was cool. Dr. Marco, while used sparingly, was used effectively. My other favorite line in this film is, "Play with the devil, you'll end up in hell." And Edward responds, "I've already been to hell." And like, I love that interplay between him and Marco. And like, Marco just reads like a guy who just does not want to go back to the military, does not want them looking over his shoulder. He's taking shots right away at these teenagers who enter his house. And he stays with the rifle drawn. Like, he tries to shoot them a second time. That has to do some alchemy to shut that shit down. So it was cool. I liked their conversation. Again, they had to sort of rush his death, so Lust shows up and pretty much impales him immediately, like, pins
immediately.
Ed didn't want to get pinned to the wall, and just goes, "All right, you're done now." So
didn't spend a lot of time with him, but I feel like for what this movie, for his role in this movie, I think he did his part, I guess.
He gave them the info about Laboratory 5. So that allowed them to move forward. I don't know. I liked, first of all, whoever played Ross, Lieutenant Ross, looks exactly like that character. Like, she just looks almost like a character brought to life.
A couple of these actors, man, they did a great job with just finding like these lookalikes, or these like really good resemblance of the anime characters. You
Yeah.
know, from Ross to Hughes and a couple other ones. I mean, honestly, Roy
He's
he
pretty
looked
close.
he's
Yeah.
pretty close, but yeah, nah, Ross definitely great choice for
Yes.
sure.
Um, I thought the confrontation between like, Roy and the initial confrontation between Roy and the homunculi was very tense
Hmm.
and interesting and exciting. They did that very
Hmm.
well. I love the fact that, Roy just roasts
Yep,
Envy
get
like
the
immediately.
infamous roast scene. He just keep going.
Yes.
Yep.
um, because like, yeah, like recognizing the mole was on the wrong side, which I think is something Hughes does in the version I'm used to. But like, it was cool to see
Mm,
Roy do it here. Um, the effects for Envy's transformations on point. Um,
really good.
yeah, just
Hmm.
really convincing. And there's a lot of body horror in this, which is a part of Fullmetal Alchemist, because I mean, the two
Yes.
boys get ripped apart as, as children.
Hmm.
Speaking of, that makes me remember it was an interesting choice how they wanted to fill us in on the rest of that origin. So
Mm.
obviously in the anime and the manga, like we see that happen to the kids, right?
Mhm.
In this version, they kind of do this weird otherworldly dream sequence with current day Ed, and he
Mm.
kind of relives what happened to him as a child. And I think that was a clever way to like spare an audience of seeing like children get like fucked up.
That makes sense.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I understand. On one hand, I'm like, it doesn't hit the same way, but
Hmm.
at the same time, I respect it because that's a lot to ask of a movie going audience, you know?
Of a child actor. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I don't want, maybe a lot of people turning up wouldn't want to see these children get ripped up like that, and I don't blame them. So, um,
Hmm.
and like you said, yeah, this also allowed us to spend more time with Ryosuke as Ed. So I think having him relive that experience in his dream allowed us
Hmm.
to see it through his eyes and his portrayal. And that was probably a smarter choice because, like you said, again, like it just would have been the child actors would have been had to, I don't know how you get them through that. So,
Hmm.
so that was
Now
interesting.
refresh my memory with Shao Tucker being the main antagonist of the second half of the film.
Yeah.
Do we spend that much time with him in the 2003 version as him? Because doesn't he
Y-
turn into a chimera in
yes.
that version? Okay.
Yes. In that version, Shao Tucker basically has his initial arc with Nina that gets wrapped up.
Mm,
And
mhm,
then they tell Ed now that he's dead because he's been executed because
mhm,
he's too much of an embarrassment. And then later we find out he's still fucking alive. And
mhm.
they allowed him to continue his experiments because they were profitable for the military. And then he turns himself into like a human chimera trying to find a way to bring Nina back. He becomes
In the back,
obsessed
yeah.
with, yeah, like what he did to his own daughter and tries to like fix it and he can't. So it
Mhm,
was really interesting. I think in this version, seeing him be kind of and like I guess the second tier. I mean, he's the main antagonist in that we spend more time with him, but like he's kind of subordinate to I think the General Haruko, however you pronounce it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but like ultimately, it's still like he seems. What was different about this is he seems like he had a personal vendetta against Ed in this version, which is new to me.
Mm,
And in previous
mhm.
versions, he's kind of like Ed, we're the same. I don't even know why you mad. Um, yeah, because he got problems like
Yeah, it
that.
was real. I felt the same way. It was interesting because I'm used to him. Um, and I was gonna ask you the next question, how you felt about his relationship with him and Nina. As far
Mm,
as like him turning her into, a chimera or, fusing her with the dog Alexander and just going
yeah.
through that phase so quickly in this film,
Mm,
to pretty much having this 1v1 with Edward,
right.
like, did you even really care? Like, I know you did this first with your wife and then now this happened, but it seemed like they
Right.
shifted focus on that and just was like, hey, you and I are the same, yada yada, blah blah blah, to that part of the film. Yeah, I was just curious on what your thoughts was
No,
on
that's a good point. I
him.
feels like because they opted or had to omit Barry the Chopper.
Mhm.
Because Ed and Al do a lot when they're on their journey to find the Philosopher's Stone. For those who don't know, they meet a lot of people along the way. So I understand
Mhm.
why they had to condense, but it seems like since they had to omit Barry the Chopper as one of the fundamental antagonists that shapes Ed, Al, and Winry, they kind of folded a little bit of him into Shao Tucker because he seemed hell bent on getting back at Ed for foiling him, and that's more of a Barry the
Mhm.
Chopper thing. Whereas Shao
Mhm.
Tucker was very much like to your point. He at the time he was confident and cocky, like, I did it. I was able to make another talking chimera. I'm a genius. This is
Mhm.
just what we do for science. And then he kind of comes back down and realizes like, okay, like I have to make this up to Nina. I'll bring her back. He like kind of deflects his emotional trauma by saying like, well, I can fix it, so that makes it okay. Just
Mhm.
let me fix it. And he becomes super obsessed with fixing it. And he's just like,
Yeah.
there's a part in that 2003 version where he's holding his lifeless doll that's part chimera, part Nina, and there's nothing to her, and he's just like still whispering to her and promising that he's gonna figure it out, and he can't let her go. And like we didn't get any of that in this version. This version doubles down on just being like like an arrogant prick that's like, nah, I do what I
Yeah.
want, and you got in my way, Ed. So now you're gonna get it. So I was like,
Mhm.
interesting.
Interesting. Mhm.
Different. But I guess this movie had to come to a close. They needed a big bad for Ed and company to defeat. They did a good
Mhm.
multi-tiered thing where like they had to deal with the homunculi, they had to deal with Tucker, they had
Yes.
to deal with the general. The homunculi can ultimately deal with the general. Um,
Mhm.
but it was interesting. But yeah, I felt like it was I was when I saw the CGI creatures that Tucker created, I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, that we're fighting zombies at the end of this movie. Essentially, interesting. I,
Yeah,
I guess.
I've honestly felt like they did a move like a Resident Evil film would do, and they was just
Hmm.
adding stuff at this point, and it was like
Hmm.
how they gave like how they created like a bunch of new well, you haven't seen the later on Resident Evil films, but they
Right.
were adding a lot more, I guess, creatures that weren't in
Uh,
video games, like coming up with their own things that I was like, all right, that's cool.
we're
Okay.
here now.
That's what that scene made me remind me of when those creatures or whatever those zombie looking things were
Thanks.
that
I
came
got
out.
big RE vibes from that. I was just like, don't get me wrong. It gives them something all to fight. It complicates
Mhm.
things. Like it gives Riza Hawkeye, who doesn't get a lot to do in this film, but she's played well. It gives Riza Hawkeye like something to do on the other front where they're like trying to keep
Mhm.
them from getting into the city. It plays into the theme from the books and everything where like the military is trying to harness the power of alchemy to weaponize it. Like it follows like it's in that vein, but it just felt like, but is this the
Mhm.
best we could come up with though? Like just all right, we're
It
fighting.
just you could definitely tell they put that in there to just give someone something to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got people shooting at some of them from a distance. You got
Yeah.
Al doing his thing
Yeah.
while Roy is fighting Envy, or was he fighting
Yeah.
Rust or Envy?
Both of
It
them.
was it
Both of
was
them.
both of them basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roy was doing all the work basically, but yeah, it was.
So yeah, I think that was their MacGuffin, their plot device to sort of just like
While
keep
injured, I'll add.
no, your boy holds it down. I fucking love Roy Mustang. Dude is hardcore.
He really, I get when it comes to Roy's character, I always take it back to Attack on Titan and what's that character's name? Shoot. Oh my god. Everybody loves this character.
I haven't seen
Oh my
enough of it.
god.
So like Mikasa, that's all.
Oh my god. No, no, what's his name?
Oh, it's a dude.
Levi.
Okay.
Levi. There we go.
Levi.
Levi.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Roy and Levi are two characters. They're very similar,
yeah.
and that's why I like both of those characters from those franchises.
Facts. Okay, that's a good comparison. I never thought of comparing Roy
Mhm.
to anyone because I hadn't seen a lot of
Mhm.
his type. But like, yeah, that's a good
Yep.
one. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I felt like yeah, this zombie scenario was sort of like designed to, and the Tucker scenario was designed to just sort of keep
Yes.
Ed, Al, and Winry and Hawkeye in the military busy. so they can set
Busy.
up the fight, the badass fight with Roy and the other two homunculi. And here's something I will say: they kept a lot of what they could. I miss Gene Havoc. Gene Havoc is one of my favorite
Mm,
characters. That like
mhm.
he's a smaller character
Yeah.
overall in the plots of both anime, but like I felt like I love them in both versions, and I think I actually this is one of the places where I concede that Brotherhood actually gives him something more interesting to do, because in the
Mm,
Brotherhood arc, he gets impaled by Lust, and then he
mm,
loses the use of his legs, um, and he
mm.
has to recover and all this stuff, and so like there just wasn't, I guess they decided there just wasn't room for him, so like we lose that element of this fight, and like the Roy's righteous anger at what Lust does to Havoc is part of the motivating factor for him to just like, all right, bitch, you're gonna roast. Like that's part of what
Yeah.
drives him to like keep going, sear himself shut, and just be like, all right, I cannot pass out until I take your ass down, take you out
Yeah.
of this world. And so we're missing a little bit of that, but that's just one of the concessions
Yes.
of condensing it into this film. Um, but I did think it was cool to see Ed back him up. I thought that was an
Yeah.
interesting choice. I mean, and makes it
Mhm.
for a movie, it makes sense because it's his movie, so it allows him to kind of come back into the fold. And it shows us a different side of Ed and Roy's relationship. It's there in the other versions, but it was just like cool to see. It was cool to see that arc play out where like throughout the film,
Mhm.
Roy seems a bit too cold and focused for Ed's taste, even though the rest of
Mm.
us know that he does care. But
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
between them, there is that friction as there always is. And by the end of this film, thanks to the consequences of what played out, it was so cool to see Ed be the one to sort of pick up where Hughes left off and be like, hey, make
Yeah.
sure you rise up to the top and take care of this corruption. Like that trust was
Agreed.
formed. I was like, that's beautiful, actually. That's real different, but
No,
real
it is
beautiful.
beautiful. No, I
Um,
enjoyed that as well.
that fight was cold though. I mean, it
No,
doesn't
that was
go
a really
as
good fight.
hard as Brotherhood does it, but it's still good.
Yes, I agree. 100%. 100%. No, it was a lot of dope scenes. And like you mentioned, there's not like a ton of fight scenes in this film, but when they do get down, they get down. Like the even the choreography of just them in general, just
Yes.
fighting, using these CGI green screen stuff, and it's really dope to
The
see that in
timing.
acting.
Yeah.
The timing, yes. Absolutely.
As an actor, I
Absolutely.
can't help but be mystified because I've only done a little bit of green screen work in my career so far, but I'm just like the timing
Nice.
of like the way they've blocked this, like the physical reactions to stuff that isn't there is some of the best I've seen. Like that's a hard thing to do. People
Mhm.
under value it because they're like, oh, you're just using green screen, you're just using CGI, you can make anything happen. I'm
Mhm.
like, still takes coordination. You still got to like as an actor or stunt performer, you still have to buy into the what's happening. It's a lot of work.
Mhm.
So I just want to, yeah, definitely shout out to that. Um, I did want to also note that similar to Brotherhood, Winry is more present during a lot of the adventure. One thing that the
Yes.
2003 version does is they make Winry a central character. She's important, but A, you go a long
Mhm.
time without seeing her, and B, she they often do things that intentionally separate Winry from Ed and Al. Like they make sure she's
That's
still
true.
doing shit, like she's still doing important shit, but she's just not
Mhm.
with them. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's better or worse, but that is something to note. If you're a Brotherhood fan, you like Winry being closer to the things that are happening to these brothers, then they do have that in this movie. Um,
Mhm.
Maybe she doesn't get to do as much as she does like in Brotherhood as far as like actually engaging, like because she has a whole thing with Scar. I mean, there's sequels. There are sequels, and the next one is called
I
The
can't
Revenge of
wait to
Scar.
I can't wait to get in the next one.
So,
'Cause I like Scar, so I'm curious to
me
see,
too.
and I saw who the actor was playing Scar. He's another actor who played, in One Piece.
Oh shit.
Let me see. Let me see what his name is first. Let me see. Let me get his name so I could be give him his full credit. What's his name?
I'm looking through them all.
Let's see.
Um, but no, Scar is definitely a favorite. Scar is just like one of the baddest to ever fucking do it, and I cannot wait to see what
I
they're
can't
able to
wait.
do.
Man, I cannot wait. Let me see who this actor is. Because he plays Zoro in One Piece. Let me get his name.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I'm probably gonna butcher this. Makinyu Maeda. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Makinyu. Yeah,
Word.
but he plays Scar in the sequel, and then he also plays Zoro in One Piece. He's done a good job with playing, because he also plays Inishi in Rurouni Kenshin, and who else does he play? He plays another person too.
I love hearing this because it's just like I love when actors have a habit of playing like comic book characters and stuff because like it just makes me happy. It makes me think that like they're not looking down on this medium, right? Either they enjoy it or are fans on some level, or they're willing to respect it, and I think that's a really cool thing to see happen.
That part. But from what I've seen, and I can't wait to see how he portrays Scar, his Zorro portrayal is really spot on.
I need to
It's
get on that.
super accurate,
need to
really
get on that.
accurate. And this is coming from someone who ain't even seen the anime. I was like, hey, from what you guys have told me about Zoro, because it's one of my cousin's favorite animes, and Zoro is his favorite character. Even he agreed, like, yeah, he killed that.
I
So
need
wait
to
see what he
ask.
does with Scar.
I need to ask the little bro. Connor was getting me into One Piece. I'm like, I'm not watching this by myself, and we'll never get there because there's never gonna be enough time for us to get through all of it. But he wanted to at least get me further in, I guess. But like he loves One Piece. I have some friends who love One Piece as well. So one of these days I need to check out the live action version because I hear it's one of those that appeals to all. If you don't know One Piece or if you love One Piece, it kind of gives you something to work with, and I think that's really freaking cool.
And it really sucks that with Netflix, because they did that. Obviously, we just talked about it with Last Airbender, only giving them 8 episodes. One Piece had the same situation. I would have loved to have more more episodes, or just longer episodes would have been nice too, because they were a little shorter too. So
okay.
I'm hoping these next seasons, because both of them got greenlit for season 2. Whereas One Piece, I think, got season 2 and 3. But I'm super excited to see, them get more, and hopefully they can get Netflix to get them like 10 episodes or more. I'd love that.
Yeah. Now I'm rooting for
and
these.
Don't split them up, Netflix. We don't want 3 episodes one month and then 3 months later another 3 episodes, and
Cue the Mackay Pfeiffer smoking meme, like just unnecessary Netflix. I still haven't watched Cobra Kai just because I'm bitter. I'm like, I'm waiting until November. I'm waiting.
I was gonna say November is kind of close, I guess.
Yeah, it's still a little wait, but like, yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm taking a risk. I could get spoiled, but I'm like, I'm just gonna wait. But nah, this was what's up. Minor note at the end, because like they do the thing where they included the part where Ed does activate the stone, the red stone they get from burning out of fucking lust, which I still am such a sucker for that, because I just thought that was such a hardcore way to fucking take care of one of the homunculi. But I think that he activates the stone and he gets to go back to the gate like he had been earlier in the story.
Truth,
and he speaks to the universe, the truth, whatever, and he sees Al's body. I thought they did a great job with all of that, and just like the performance there, and just seeing him make the decision in real time that like this cost so many human lives. I can't do it this way, but fuck you, I will be back.
I will be back. I'll find another way, but I'll see you again. No, that was a good, and the look of it too was really good. Being in the Gated Truth was really good.
They captured that so well, so beautiful. Just really brought that to life. When he gets back, Al, he tells Al that, you know, he's taller and everything because Al asks those questions. And Al says,
Mhm.
aren't I so great? I think the word they used was sugoi. I wanted to point out real quick for the Japanese speaking
Mhm.
people who might catch that. Sugoi, I guess it's not a bad word to use. Sugoi doesn't have like an exact equivalent, but I believe the sugoi is used very similar to cool. Like, so I
Mm.
felt like cool would have been a better word to use because, like, oh man, I'm tall and shit. I'm cool. Like,
Mhm.
but you know, great is close enough. I don't begrudge it, but I just wanted to point that out.
Gotcha.
Overall, though, I gotta say, like, I fuck with this movie. Like, it's I don't
Same.
know if I fuck with it enough to like watch it when I'm in the mood for FMA, but
Mm.
I wouldn't mind watching it again. You know, if somebody else was curious, or if I just wanted to like remember how things went down, you know, I don't mind this. Like, this is another way to see these characters come to life.
Mhm.
But like most likely, if I'm just like hankering for FMA, I'm gonna watch one of the anime. But good
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
Good stuff.
No, they did a really good job. You know, this is my I had told Phil I had rewatched it. So I watched it. This was my second time watching it again. I saw it first time in 2017, and then I watched it a couple weeks ago. And no, I still enjoyed it even the second time around. It was still entertaining. I was able to see why they were greenlit for sequels because yeah, it was a good film regardless of the reviews because they did get bombed. They
Oh shit, that's too
reviews were
bad.
terrible. Yeah, reviews
That's
were
rough.
terrible.
That's rough.
But ultimately they did get two more films. So I'm glad
That's
they were
good.
able to continue that story. And shout out to Warner Brothers Pictures. They
Oh,
were
okay.
the distributed by Warner Brothers.
I did not
So
realize that. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So
Nice.
shout out to them.
Uh, uh, Warner Brothers can do some good things sometimes. I should really watch my mouth.
That's
I'm a working actor in Hollywood. I've done a New Line
that
Cinema
lives in
film.
California.
New Line Cinema is owned by Warner Brothers. Nonetheless, no, I agree. I think it's they did an
Yeah.
admirable job with the impossible circumstances of like take this epic tale and make it into a movie
Mhm.
series, and we're gonna give you maybe a couple movies to do it. So
Absolutely.
um I think Drado and I are both open-minded enough to just like accept it for what it is and understand the
Mhm.
concessions they made for the medium they put it in. But if you are a purist, I get why this is not for you, um, and that's
Mhm.
okay. That's fine. But like, I wanted to at least. I'm glad Drado and Ray gave me the encouragement to at least check it out because I'm glad
Yeah.
I saw it. You know, and I also saw it twice. I saw it I think like before you went on vacation, and I watched it again like last night just to make sure I
Mhm.
took some notes. And I was just like, yeah, like this is again. If this were just a movie I watched and I had no idea what Fullmetal Alchemist was, I would have had a great time. And I did have a good
Mhm.
time anyways. Uh, but you know, that part of the brain that like, you know, knows what the source material is like, or at least what
Yeah.
other adaptations are like and what they were able to do. Um, I clock the differences, but I'm also able to let them go. I guess I would compare this. I just came up with this. I guess I would compare this to the 20th Century Fox X-Men films to tie it together with your T-shirt. I think the 20th Century Fox X-Men films, if you are a hardcore comic book fan,
Mhm.
there is something lacking from them, but you also appreciate the heart and the detail and the love they showed it and what they were able to do with what they had. So like I think that like those original I still love the first X-Men movie. I think that's still my favorite of the X-Men movies.
Great
Um
film.
and I just think like X-Men and X2 and so many of the well-made X-Men movies, they're not all great. They
Mhm.
they do a good job of like getting to the core of what X-Men is about and honoring, you know, so many of the characters. They dropped the ball with some characters, but so many of the
Yes.
characters, and like, you know, they do a good job of like, even if it's not a perfect representation of X-Men in your mind, the
Mhm.
love is there, and the coherent storytelling and strong storytelling is there. So I
Yes.
think FMA 2017 is very much that. There's some missteps and there's some odd deviations, but as far as just being a sound film from start to finish, with a definite beginning, middle, and end. I give them props. I liked it. Liked it.
Yeah, and my last I guess thoughts or point I want to make is I really look at it as just another interpretation of Full Metal, because we had two different animes that weren't the same from the 2003 to the Brotherhood. I just
Facts.
look at this as like a third reiteration of the franchise, just something different, taking a different route with a different story, and it's given more options for people to dive into Full Metal Alchemist. You can either watch this movie, you can watch
Yes.
Brotherhood, or you can watch the 2003 version if you can find it. So
Facts,
yeah,
facts,
just
facts.
giving just giving those options and more outlets to these characters, Full Metal Alchemist characters, the Elric brothers. Just this, it's just more exposure for them and for more people to get introduced to these characters. The only thing I would hate to see
Agreed.
is if they switched up or changed these brothers in any way, shape, or form. I would probably, try to keep people away from that
Right.
product. But because this film did a great job with showing the brotherly love between these two, and that relationship, and still keeping it
Yes.
that keeping it real to its core, like it was in the other adaptations, as well as the manga, which I haven't read yet, but it's
Same.
still another outlet for people to jump into. I think they did a great job, and of course, the ending of this movie had a great soundtrack to end off of. That
Yes.
music was so beautiful.
It was that
It was
that
so
is
beautiful.
yes. Anytime you
Hmm.
need. I forget what the actual Japanese name of it is, but essentially
Hmm.
um that is essentially what she does sing in the chorus in English. That bit. That is the name of the song, and that was like if I don't know why and how it is that Full Metal Alchemist adaptations absolutely do not miss with music, but they just don't.
It's true.
They refuse to. I
Hmm.
immediately, despite how while I was processing the film and being like, what did I like, what I did not like, that song, and also the ending montage of the brothers as kids,
Yeah, that was
researching
cool.
alchemy was so beautiful that I immediately looked this up on Spotify. I was like, can I please add this? Is this on Spotify? Please
Hmm.
thank, and it was. And I listen to it on the regular now. That song is
Nice.
so incredible. Yeah,
Hmm.
very moving stuff. Like Drado said perfectly. Now you got more ways to
Hmm.
watch, more ways to enjoy the story. You can read it, you
Yep.
can watch 2 animated series, you can watch some movies.
Hmm.
And it's whatever, however you find the Elric brothers, the same reason that again, I fuck with the various versions of this tale. And I don't really care which version you prefer.
Hmm.
They're all so well done, and the core of what makes it Full Metal Alchemist and makes it so touching and so thought provoking remains. And so I really do think
Hmm.
that no gatekeeping, people. If you didn't enjoy the movie, that's okay. You can say that and you can express
Yeah,
how you feel about it,
absolutely.
but don't shit on people who are like, I've only seen the movie and I thought that was good. Like that,
Yeah.
to Drado's point, that gets people into the material, right?
Hmm.
I tell people all the time, and I'll wrap this up. I tell people all the time, I love the Batman comic books. Hate Damian
Hmm.
Wayne. But if people's favorite character is Damian Wayne, if Damian Wayne gets them into comics or comic book characters, I'm not mad at it. Like, cool.
Hmm.
Like that's a positive. That's not a negative. So just yeah. Hats off to Full Metal Alchemist. Haven't seen them. I even liked the video game back in the day. I never finished it. It was a little bit repetitive in some points, but
I didn't play it. No.
but yeah, Full Metal Alchemist is a great tale, and
Yes,
when you have people who care, it always turns out beautiful. So
absolutely. And we will be doing another review on the sequel. Full Metal Alchemist, was it Scars?
the Revenge of
Was
Scar,
it
I think,
The Revenge of Scar? Okay.
something like
So yeah,
that. I gotta look it up.
we'll be yep. So we'll be doing a separate uh, podcast of reviewing that. So definitely be on the lookout for that for sure. The Revenge of
Mhm.
Scar. Yep,
Yep,
that's what it's
yep.
called. Yep.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
Which
So
came out 2022, the same year as the third film, Full Metal Alchemist: The Final Alchemy. So yes, we'll be doing those two in separate videos. So be on the lookout for that
yes.
for sure.
Thank you so much, everyone, for kicking it with us, letting us be a part of your day. If you are at all interested in more material like this, more reviews, if you have any suggestions, anything like that, please let us know in the comments. We'll definitely take it under consideration. And yeah, we really appreciate y'all. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your journey, whatever you're doing. You can catch Hard Mode Selected at HRD Mode Selected across multiple platforms: YouTube, Instagram, what are the other ones, Drado? Help me out. TikTok.
Instagram, YouTube, Twitch.tv/Hard Mode Selected, TikTok. Yes, that is correct.
Dope. Yes. And by the time this releases, ideally, we will also be in the process of doing some live streams. We'll be playing some video games. We'll have some more content like that for you for the month of October. Happy October 3rd, everyone. Happy FMA and Mean Girls Day. And to those who observe. And we'll catch you again soon.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Until then, we got nothing else for y'all, but we will end with: when life hits you hard, hit back harder. Be easy, y'all.